Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of the Tote the Note podcast. This is a continuing series in our subject about the hard questions in Buy Here, Pay Here. So we're taking on the hardest questions, and we've invited Brent to join us. And today we're going to talk about technology in the business of Buy Here, Pay Here and how it affects us, in what we do. And so I'm lucky enough to have also with us Jeff Clark from North Carolina. Many of you have heard Jeff's episode with us in the past, and if you haven't, I would invite you to find that. He's a guy who comes from a finance background and has a lot to share in that regard. And then Justin Wallman is with us for the first time. Many of you from the Facebook groups know Justin because he and I are both pretty active out there in those conversations. And Justin is also a long established dealer. I won't share with them the particulars about your individual operations, but I can say that I know that each of these dealers has, north of 1,000 accounts and north of a $10 million portfolio. And so these are established dealers that are, have a lot of experience, and they also have a good amount of technology in their business. So Brent, I might just bring you in first to talk to our listeners and viewers about you've probably been in the Buy Here, Pay Here business the longest. I'm sure you told me 89 was when you got in it. So share with me how technology's changed in the time you've been in it.
Well, I'm Jim. First of all, it's great to be here again with everybody. So appreciate the opportunity to participate in these. I guess this internet thing might catch on, Jim. It's been around for a few years now, so it may be sticking around for a while. But when I got in the business, we were literally doing all of our business on ledger cards, and the only thing the computer kind of did was print out the payment receipts, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So leaps and bounds from the last 30 years, obviously, in technology, not only from the DMS standpoint, payment device standpoint, CRMs. I mean, just everything that's come along in the last, and a lot of this stuff for our industry has really been maximizing itself, I would say, over the last 10 years. Even though I think we're still a little bit behind on technology from some of the other industries, it has come leaps and bounds and made it so much easier to operate a business effectively today.
Very good. I didn't explain, I've said before in prior episodes that those of you that don't know Brent well, he's the head moderator. What is your title, Brent? What do we want to call you?
Well, I'm a little bit of everything. I'm a moderator, I'm a trainer, and I'm a consultant. So I kind of do a little bit of everything. I moderate 20 groups, I teach classes, and I offer on-site consulting for NCM for the Buy Here, Pay Here, and the independent used car dealer space.
And I remember that you told me that NCM, I remembered that they started the the 20 group process decades ago. You told me that was 1946. So my point is NCM knows a thing or two about running 20 groups, and Brent's been at it a long time. 14 years you've been with NCM, right?
That is correct. Going on my 15th year. That is correct.
Excellent. So we're glad to have your contributions to the conversation. So Justin, I might have you kind of share your experience with technology, because I'm familiar with your operation. I know you guys have a pretty high tech operation. You lean pretty heavy on technology. And so maybe share with me first the parts, maybe how technology's changed in your business since you started, and maybe what your favorite parts of that technology have been for you.
Yeah, so pretty similar too, as Brett was referencing. I mean, just some basic printing out receipts. I remember the amortization schedule. We would cross the line off and do the same type of thing. So it has definitely came pretty far since then. And, when we started expanding, we opened up multiple locations. So that was another reason why, as technology was kind of getting adopted, why we needed to kind of streamline some of this, because we just needed to get a little bit better. We had to become more efficient, and more efficiency, you're hoping to be more organized. And then by being more organized, you're hoping to measure more things. So, we're just trying to kind of lean more into that and, not get completely waylaid with all the fancy stuff out there. But I've always been pretty big on efficiency. How can we do this a little bit cleaner? Especially in the areas that we think that technology can really help, and just try to wrap around that as a whole.
Right. Good. So you want to share with me kind of what do you think is part of your business that you get the most help from technology currently?
Well, I think just being able to, when I think about like, the customer, I think now, a customer can kind of go into, any location, make a payment, get a receipt, they don't have to be at this spot where they bought the car. I think they get treated that much better now. I think about just being able to expeditiously implement something in our business too. Just something that if we say, hey, this change can occur, I think we can, get that much quicker. So it just shortens that lag time between, okay, we're going to implement this new process. And if we can have technology on our side, we may be able to train our people much faster, and, we can roll it out. And I think that, can help in scaling, and it won't, bog us down to where, we can't improve and be more proficient.
Yeah, that's good. You mentioned scaling. Of course, Brent and I have already done a series on Blue Sky and buy here, pay here, and how to create value, and all of these things can certainly contribute. So Jeff, same question of you, like, what have you kind of seen shift? I think you've been in the business since 2012 or 13 and banking before that. So what's been your observation, and where do you feel like tech helps you the most?
Well, this is my 10th year in the business, and my ledger cards weren't in the buy here, pay here business. They were in the banking world. So technology has been fantastic for me in this business. We made a decision when we started the business that we were going to try to do everything in the cloud. We were going to be digital and paperless from day one. And we've been able to do that. It's allowed us to expand and grow with a lot less people, a lot less overhead, a lot less space. And we were lucky. In my 20 group, I'm amazed today that we have dealers that are still not in the cloud with their DMS.
Right.
DMS has been promising to be in the cloud, and most of them are there, getting there now. But I just can't imagine, that not being the case.
Yeah.
In the cloud with QuickBooks, in the cloud with my GPS, in the cloud with my underwriting, in the cloud with everything,
Sure.
And it's really made the business a lot more manageable for me.
Sure. Yeah, with good software, obviously, we're able to better run multiple locations, and we're able to run our finance company and kind of handle our accounting and all those kind of things. So I see people out there. And by the way, I opened my dealership years ago in 2005, and I think it's about the same time you opened, Justin, or you got in the business yourself in 05.
Yep.
And I was on a browser-based DMS back then. So, it's like, that's a long time ago to have browser-based solutions, and not everybody's out there using that stuff. So I think it's hard for us to measure, right, the price that we pay for not having some of the technology. And I know Justin shared with me one day about them having to copy and paste a bunch of stuff from days gone by and move stuff from one system to another. So obviously our ability to do those things, and none of us like to hear the word integration. That's kind of a painful word for many of us in buy here, pay here, but they're getting better. Obviously, we got a lot of people out there doing good things with DMS and et cetera, and a lot of great integrations around these DMS providers. But Brent, what's anything else for you come to mind as they kind of shared that?
No, I just think it's interesting because Jeff came from a banking background, and I guess you automatically assume that they should have been one step or two steps or 10 steps, I guess, above our industry. And again, I guess I've been around so long that the thing that's always frustrated me about our industry is we have been 10 years to 15 years always behind technology. And it struck me as odd because, and Justin, the groups that you were in NIADA, but I think about 40% of my current dealer clients are new car guys as well. Okay. And they have never lacked for technology, but for some reason they have the latest, greatest there, but a $10 million portfolio is managed off a $99 a month DMS or off of an old disk-driven one. For those of you who've been around a long time, you remember those. And you look at that and go, how could this be in an industry that handles so much money and so much risk, is that we just can't seem to get to that true cloud-based software? Because a lot of them are, web-based and cloud-based are two different things, right? The RDP or whatever, a lot of systems would do that. So they were maintained in a server farm. But what Jeff's talking about is that true cloud-based, where I can pick up my iPad and get to my software, or on my cell phone, one of the two, to make it truly easy to manage my business from anywhere I'm at. That's where we need to be, I think, as a CDK, rentals and rentals type environment, fully integrated with accounting, with a CRM, with the shop software. So we don't have the plug and play, and third parties, don't get me wrong, are doing a great job with integrations. But man, it would be just so much easier if I brought up one screen and I had everything right there, right? And we're getting there, and we're getting there. And like I said, when I got on this side of the business, when I kind of retired, the technology has gone leaps and bounds. And then there's a couple of times I'm going, hey, it's a little bit more fun now to operate a business than it was in 1996 or 2003. So we've come a long way, but I think we still have a little ways to go to get even more effective than what we are currently at.
Yeah, and I think one of the fascinating things about this, as we started into this, Brent, you and I originally thought we would talk about digital delivery, right? That's been the big buzz conversation lately. People talking about being able to deliver a customer through an entirely digital process practically, and even deliver the car to their home. So we know that's happening, that we're on the cusp of that. We're moving more and more to that. I think what fascinates me about that is watching how this affects the customer interaction. We know that in Buy Here, Pay Here, we have a little different relationship with a consumer, than a traditional retailer, independent retail dealer might have. So that's the part that I'm watching, is how do we move to technology without losing the customer experience? Because I'm one of those people that believes, that people matter, handshakes matter, eye contact, body language, all that stuff still matters. So we got to figure out how, we all want to use technology, but we got to figure out how do we do that without compromising the customer relationship and the customer experience. So, it's part of what we're out there working on now. And I might just recap for the sake of our listeners and viewers, when I'm thinking about technology, I kind of working from a bullet point list here. When I think about different areas that we can use technology, whether that's software or these cloud-based things we're talking about, browser-based solutions, I'm thinking about like inventory and pipeline management. We got a lot of good solutions out there for that these days. Marketing and sales funnels. I don't see a lot of that in Buy Here, Pay Here. Some of your top dealers are doing that well. But when we talk about designing a pretty sophisticated sales funnel and marketing methods, that exists. And so that's also available. The third one would be GPS and starter interrupt. That's another area where, certainly technology has moved in our favor tremendously. And then DMS and software, underwriting tools, collections, and the last one kind of being portfolio management, if that happens to be outside your DMS. So, when I think about technology, there are others, but this is just kind of these are the ones that we tend to see most often. So Justin, maybe I have to go back to you and share with me kind of from your early days, where would you say that you still could use the most help with technology? Where would you like to expand and grow and could improve your business?
I think if I learned a little bit more on that advertising and marketing side of it, that's something that, when I grew up in it, Jim, Brent, and Jeff, it was more about pounding the pavement. We walked outside, we shook each other's hand, and my CRM was a Post-it note. And, so I'm sure there was some technology out there, but I think just a little bit, you get all this, the Google and the AdWords and that stuff is just still abstract for me. I know that could be a great way to bring in some more leads and then of course how we handle those. But I would really like to know, once we define some of our and refine some of our processes a little bit better, how exactly I can maybe just master that more to try to attract more business. I think that's, where something that I would like to learn more of. And how to treat those and see if that type of technology, because that's like a whole marketing section that is just, that can be over your head pretty quickly.
For sure. What about you, Jeff?
I would agree 1,000%. I've been trying to figure that out for 10 years. And every 2 years, I try something new and different and try to get my hands around that and understand that it is, it's complicated. All the other pieces of our business are complicated and hard, but I understand the problems and I understand it. But grasping that SEO and bringing in those leads and I have a new person coming in my office every month wanting to tell me they're the latest and the greatest at being able to do that. And I've been through a dozen of them. And, you know, I think I have the greatest now. We'll see.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to define. It's hard to measure. It's hard to monitor. It's hard to judge. It's hard to grade. I mean, everything about it. I mean, if I sell more than I did last month, then it was good. If I sell less than I did month before, then it was bad. That's my measurement stick. And that's not a good measurement stick. You know, that's not right.
Yeah. Now, CRMs are helping us in that way. We haven't talked a lot about that, but I see the same thing. And I remember working with a client years ago, and, you know, we got to where we could help them figure out how to do a Facebook ad or boost a post or whatever. And then I got into Google Analytics and I thought, I have no business in here. There's nothing I'm going to be able to do that's helpful from a standpoint of Google Analytics. There's so much, really high tech stuff in there, but there's also just algorithms and stuff that, you know, we really can't be expected to know as dealers. And we got to find, that's one area where I think we got to outsource that. We got to find people who know that space and can help us do that. So Brent, anything to add to that?
Well, yeah, to Jeff's point, there are too many resources out there right now that can tell you, you know, we can do your social media program for you. We can create the ads. We can do this. But the problem is each one of them has 1,000 different metrics, and which one is the one that's right for me? Is it BDPs? Is it leads? Is it time on site? I mean, they give you all of these different informations, and I wish there was one that was more. I mean, we're about leads, right? When it comes to whatever advertising you're doing is leads. Give me a name, a phone number, an email address. That's what I want, and that's the hard part. But then, is it cost of sale that you're looking at? Cost of lead? I just had a meeting with my high volume used independent group, and these guys are spending, and this is because we did a digital spend breakdown. The group averages $30,000 a month on digital.
Wow.
Each dealer averages, I mean, they're spending $300,000 a year just on digital. Now, the average dealer in this group sells about 200 cars a month on average, but that's what they're spending to get there. And it's spread out. It's not 3 places. There's somewhere between, I think the shortest may have been 10 different places they're spending it, the most with about 15 different places they're spending. Different environment they're spending on Auto Trader and Car Gurus and places like that really don't have relevance to us, but that's what they have to do. And to Jeff and Justin's point, I mean, God, where do I need to be for buy here, pay here, for deep subprime? Who do I believe? There's so many people out there that tell me that they can do it well. And to Jeff's point, they do well for 2 or 3 months, then you have an off month. Well, is that their fault? Or is it just one of those weird months when nobody was on the internet kind of thing, right? And then I didn't close. I was talking with the dealer that was in one of Jeff's groups when he was with us, doing the same amount of advertising, but traffic has just dropped off the table. Everything has been the same, but just for some reason, February and March, their leads, their traffic had just dropped. And you know, now you need a professional that understands the Google algorithm and Facebook's algorithm, because they change on a regular basis. So what you do today may not work next month if that algorithm changes. How are we supposed to know that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So to me, that is the biggest challenge right now in technology, I think. And I think it's interesting that both Justin and Jeff mentioned the same thing. It's the other things that you have on there listed, don't get me wrong, but those problems, to Jeff's point, are linear. Started here, it goes here, I can get there. I know how to get there in my portfolio with some of these other problems. This marketing thing is, I mean, holy crap, take 30 grand, throw it against the wall, and hopefully 29,000 of it sticks.
Yeah. So, and then there's the messaging part, which for me has always been a thing. Even before I was in the buy here, pay here space as a retail owner operator, I was always just fascinated by the messaging part of marketing. Like, you know, we can get out there and spend the money, but what's the right message to bring forward? Which leads me to think, you know, since we're kind of settling in where marketing is really where we want to be, where we want to get better on tech, I want to ask each of you your kind of from a purely anecdotal perspective. I'll start with you, Justin. What would you guess, based on your observation, what percentage of customers that come forward in your buy here, pay here operation are shopping financing, and what percentage are looking for a car? So can you give me the percentage you think are shopping financing?
6 to 7 out of 10
Okay.
each time, without a doubt. And even if someone's directly for a car, that might have just gotten their interest for the moment, but really, you know, still is has some trepidation whether they'll get approved, or what's your financing like, or I don't have it bad, or I don't have great credit. I think 6, 7 out of 10 every single time. It's a little bit about, I'm in a situation, and can you help me figure out my problem?
Right. And what about you, Jeff?
I would say closer to 8 out of 10 for me.
Okay, interesting. So I wonder how much of that is the message that we're putting forward is driving the kind of leads, or is it because, all this technology's changed, but the customer hasn't? What do you think, Brent?
Well, Auto Trader does an annual study on kind of advertising phrase hot buttons. And they don't do it for buy here, pay here, because they can't do it specifically. They do it for subprime and deep subprime. And for the last 3 or 4 years, it has been the same thing. It's been quick and easy financing were the hot buttons for advertising, not low down, not low payment, not quality vehicles, not family owned and operated for 50 years. It's been quick, easy financing, which again makes sense, especially what we've been dealing with over the last couple of years. We talked about digital deliveries is, you've got to be willing to underwrite ahead of time, something that we wouldn't do before virtually, give you an answer, say, yes, we will sell you, Justin, this car for this down payment before you ever walk in the door. One thing that our data is showing is that closing ratios have dropped over the last couple of years. And I think part of that is the reason you mentioned it earlier. If we're going to go to this digital environment, so to speak, we lose that one-on-one with the customer. It makes it a lot harder to keep that relationship with the customer when they're making their payments online, which is great. Don't get me wrong. They don't have to come in my dealership anymore on Friday. They can make a payment anywhere, anytime, anyhow, right? I can underwrite them and basically sell them. And there are some buy here, pay here dealers that are going down the Carvana model and actually delivering the cars. And our early data is showing us that repeat business is dropping. So the percent of customers that are repeat buyers every month is less than what it used to be. And that our closing ratios on our leads have dropped over the last couple of years because, maybe we don't have a good follow-up process. We say, yes, Jim, you can buy the car for $1,000 down, but you're not in the dealership where I've got that control. And so now they're going to other places and looking for options. So, technology is a great thing, but I think for some of our dealers, they're not quite ready for it yet because they don't have a good follow-up process. Maybe they're not good on the phones. Maybe their messaging through either email or text is not where it needs to be. So I think there's kind of a little bit of a catch-22 with some of this that we're seeing as well. But it's interesting that Justin said 6 and Jeff said 8. Of course, the first number that came to my mind would have been 9 out of 10 because we know our customer is a needs-based buyer, right? I mean, if the car truly mattered, most of us wouldn't sell anything but trucks and sport utilities, right? I mean, right. I don't know, and I'll ask Justin this because Jeff's heard me ask this question before in one of our 20 groups. Have you ever had a customer call you and say, Justin, here's what I'm looking for. You got something in a 2007, 2008 Ford Taurus with 130,000 miles on it. You got anything like that in your lot? And you're going to say, yes, but they don't do that. They come in for the Tahoe and they leave in the Taurus, right? So when you said 6 out of 7, what that tells me, Jeff, is that Justin has a really nicer inventory than the rest of us.
I'm sure he does.
He's got that high dollar stuff there because if 4 out of 10 are there for the car, he's got way too nice of inventory.
Right.
He does have.
I gotta lower that ACV. I like it. Yeah. No,
exactly.
That's interesting. You're saying that.
Yeah, that's really great information. I think that's one of the things we're obviously seeing out there too. And it feels like just sort of a pendulum swing. Like I saw the same thing a little bit with GPS. When GPS came around, my fear was what I was hearing from dealers is suddenly it was way more about the car than it was about the payment. And this, Brent, you do webinars on this, sell or repossess tell me again what the phrase is that you use in your training sessions. It's repossess what?
Collect the cash, not the car.
There you go. That's what I was trying to come up. Collect the cash, not the car. So it's like I can tell from that title alone that GPS sometimes. And listen, I love our GPS providers. They're great. When I talk about this, I get myself in trouble with them because they think I'm anti-GPS. Of course not. I love GPS and what it does for us technology-wise and recovering collateral. The temptation, though, can be that we lean too hard on that as a silver bullet, and we quit doing the hard parts of collecting. And so that is always my fear. And I think we may have a little bit of a swing that way too with technology and internet. And listen, I think that the data would say that, of the customers who are out there shopping for a car, 95% of them doing it on their mobile device, right? So we know that's kind of the thing. but it's still, my fear is that we're going to lose the customer interaction and the customer relationship if we lean too hard on that. So it's all about just kind of making it all marry together. So we can wrap up there. I can tell the three of you guys, we could talk about this thing all day long, but we have to kind of keep these subjects short. But Jeff, anything to add as we wrap up? Anything? What do you look for out of the future of buy here, pay here?
Underwriting, we're working on some new underwriting models, and I think that getting more advanced underwriting to improve our collection rate is just something we're always going to be looking for.
Yeah.
Anything we can use, new tools around underwriting and collections is critical. That's great. Justin, what about you?
Very, very spot on. I would just say I really am looking for like speedy credit decisions that are more in line with the individual's risk profile, right? Because as a whole, and buy here, pay here, we all know it has to be high interest instead of like kind of determining like it's got to be 19.9, 24.9. I would just like it more individual based, and with some of the technology that's on board. And I know the jury's still out on some of this stuff, but that's what I would like to see. Just a little bit more speedy credit decisions, more in line with our credits or with our customers' risk profile.
That's great. And I'm sure, Brent, you see the same thing. I'm seeing large, I'll call them data managers. There are people in our space that have, they're amassing larger and larger pools of data, and that's coming forward. I think we're going to be able to make better decisions in the months and years to come as that data, becomes available to us. So there are folks out there doing that. What are you seeing, Brent?
Well, kind of the same thing. And to Justin's point, I mean, if you think about the Wells Fargos or the Santanders or the Exeters or even the GMACs and the Ford Motor Credits, right? They've got these underwriting models that they've been using for decades that take literally seconds to determine. Now, I'm going to get the whole pushback. Well, they're talking about 600 and 700 credit scores. I get that. It's still a simple mathematical problem that all we have to do is be able to plug. We should have by this time,
Right.
Let me put it that way, been able to plug in our simple data and go, now this becomes a tier 1, a tier 2, a tier 3, a tier 4, to Justin's point. So this would qualify for 24.9 because it's a tier 4 and a tier 1 is a 9.9.
Right.
Why that has never come to our industry, I don't know. And I don't know if it's us, maybe it's us to blame to a certain extent that we've not asked for it or pushed for it or even thought we needed it, because I'm going to probably alienate a couple of the underwriting programs out there, but they're still driven off of the mentality that I had when I got in the business in 1989. And our customer has not changed a lot. They make more money now, but other than that, they're pretty much the same customer. So I think that's why we have the lag in that technology, is they're going, look, a 450 is a 450. Doesn't matter if it was 1989 or 2022. They're still going to perform basically the same way. And again, I kind of go back to the integration too. That frustrates me because I see guys, and I don't know Justin personally, but I promise you, he does stuff that are workarounds within his DMS to get a number, or has spreadsheets to provide him numbers that he should be able to get out of his DMS so he doesn't have to waste his time or somebody else's. Jeff, I know for a fact does, because I've worked with Jeff, and it's a frustration I have with a lot of dealers. I can't get this data, so I have to dump it into Excel, and then we got to do this. And I'm kind of fat and lazy. Everybody knows me, knows I am. I don't want to work that hard to get my data.
Yeah.
So we need, I think, a little bit more sophistication, because we are talking about millions of dollars. And again, to a certain extent, we're still doing it off of spreadsheets and ledger cards to a certain extent. I mean, not formally, but still to a certain extent we're there. And it frustrates me for guys like Justin and Jeff that I know are superior, intelligent people that get frustrated with just the lack of technology to help them manage a little bit better.
Well, I think you've articulated it well, and I think we've just done it. I mean, we just asked the industry on behalf of a couple of dealers, and these guys are representative of a large pool of dealers that need better data. They need better reporting from their DMS, and they need to be able to access historical data, not just from their own operation, but from industry data, so we can all make better judgments, because that's better for the dealer and the consumer. So it's just, the industry has got to move in that direction with us. And so I follow what you guys are saying. I definitely think there's some movement, there's some progress. And I think we just have to, as dealers, we got to get together and keep asking that question, make sure that the industry is moving to help us solve that big problem. Because you guys have very clearly identified kind of where our challenges are. So I think we should wrap up there. There's plenty more to talk about. We can always get back together for another episode. But in the meantime, I would just ask our listeners and followers, be sure to subscribe to the channel on YouTube. That's going to be the best way to make sure you find this content going forward. We're going to continue to ask the hard questions. Brent and I are going to go out there and ask the thing, and Brent will bring the answers. So we make sure we have all the answers for you as well. But we're out there.
One of the two.
Yeah, we're out there digging on dealers' behalf. And so please join in, please subscribe, and tune in to Tote the Note podcast. Thanks, gentlemen.